This is it. Great defense. Hornets win. It's over. Hornets made Giannis Antetokounmpo take the shot they wanted him to take.
He's settled, no doubt about it. Normally, you might put his head down, drive in, and just look for any kind of contact. Great D by Grant, inviting him to take that shot. He fell for the bait, missed it. Hornets get another home win here at Spectrum Center.
I'll take the shot 1,000 times. I'll take the shot 1,000 times. And work on that shot. Did not go my way. But I just love being in that position. Because the more you be in that position, the more comfortable you get. And the more often you can hit it. But got to my spot. It wasn't short. I didn't want it to be short. It was a good miss, so I just got to live with it.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is the only player in NBA history to average 30-plus points per game on over 60% from the field for an entire season. And the crazy part is, if he continues his current pace of play, he may do it for a second consecutive season, as the man is currently averaging a league-leading 32.3 points per game to pair alongside 12-plus boards and 6-plus assists on just north of 60% shooting from the field. But nobody cares, because the Bucks are off to an extremely rough 4-9 start, and the only headlines circulating this team are Giannis trade rumors and unruly fans and media calling for Doc Rivers' head, which is immensely disappointing because this sort of rhetoric about a team often makes people ignore the actual product that's being put out onto the floor, especially in Giannis's case. And there was no better example of that than on Saturday afternoon when Hornets announcers Eric Collins and Del Curry scoffed at the Greek Freak's ability to knock down the mid-range jumper.
Antetokounmpo. Oh, that's a victory. Hornets forced him to take a difficult fadeaway and he still hits it. Hornets have done a better job this time around against Giannis Antetokounmpo defensively. Look at how much they sag. There wasn't a defender 5 feet away playing through it, and the rehab staff for the Hornets getting ready to play through it.
Performance team doing work early in this season. Another
What's this all
clothesline jumper.
about?
And I get it. Giannis has never been known as a jump shooter, and it makes sense to sag off of him, given how much of a threat he is when attacking the basket downhill. But to act like he has no mid-range game at all is insane. Because if you've been following the Bucks closely this season, you'd know that GA has quietly become one of the most efficient mid-range shooters in the entire league, as he's currently shooting just above 46% from that area of the floor at the third highest volume of anyone in the league. And his current mid-range efficiency is a revelation not only because it's a career high, but because he's shooting a higher clip than notorious mid-range maestros such as Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, and even his own teammate Bobby Portis, just to name a few. But to add further context of just how efficient Giannis has been from this zone of the court, let's talk about his efficiency on long mid-range jumpers, which are shots taken outside of 14 feet, anywhere in between the free throw line and the three-point arc. And from this range, the Greek Freak is shooting a whopping 49% from the field, which puts him in the 84th percentile of long mid-range shooters at his position, by far the highest mark of his career. So I guess the big question is, what changed? Why is Giannis attempting so many mid-range jumpers, and what is he doing differently to knock them down at such a high clip? Well, for starters, it's a shot that's always gonna be there. The Hornets game was a perfect example of how teams are so terrified of GA attacking the rim that they're willingly gonna let him take that shot. And it's something Giannis himself alluded to earlier in the season.
Guys, no matter what I do, they're going to play back. No matter how many shots I make, they're going to keep on playing back. So at the end of the day, I got to take care of my body. I got to shoot those shots. I have no option.
And because this shot has always been so available for the Greek Freak, he made a point of emphasis to improve it this past offseason.
I feel like last year, I'm not sure, I was watching film today from last year of how I got myself in trouble a lot because I wasn't trusting my mid-range shots as much. And I think I made for the year like 38 or 33, I don't remember. And I think within 11 games now, I've made like 28, 29. It's something that I worked all summer with Coach Panulis, one different person that I work with now. On something that I trust, I feel like I can make it. There's gonna be some days it's gonna fall in, some days it's not gonna fall.
So this explains why he's taking more mid-range shots. But to figure out what he's doing differently, we have to dig a little deeper. Now, thankfully for you guys, because I have no life, I went back and watched all of Giannis's mid-range attempts from last season, so I could create a data set and compare it to this season. And here's what I found. In the 44 games Giannis played last season pre-Doc Rivers, there was really only one mid-range shot he was efficient at, the elbow jumper, which he knocked down at a 44% clip on 25 attempts. But everything else was relatively inefficient. So in an attempt to maximize this look for Giannis, Doc made an emphasis of incorporating more touches for GA at the elbow within Milwaukee's offense. And lo and behold, the Greek Freak's efficiency got even better from the elbow in the 29 games he played under Doc last season. And it's not like the attempts went up, but it just felt like he was being placed in more advantageous positions to knock that shot down. In fact, his efficiency on half court and transition pull-up jumpers went up significantly as well, but the sample size was small and his post-fade game remained pretty weak. But if you fast forward to his numbers in the present day from this season, not only has GA continued his efficient shooting on pull-ups, but his elbow jumpers are falling at a scorching 70% from the field on a much higher volume than last season. And again, a lot of this has to do with Giannis becoming more comfortable within Doc Rivers' offense, and nothing quite illustrates this better than his career-high 5.8 elbow touches per game this season, which ranks 7th in the NBA. To add to this, here's Giannis' shot chart from the 2023-24 campaign. As you can see, his mid-range attempts are kind of all over the place. But this year, an overwhelming number of his attempts are coming from the elbows in that general free throw line area. So Doc Rivers deserves a lot of credit for helping Giannis simplify his shot diet. As for all the work that GA put in during the offseason, that's been seen in his post fadeaway game. Because remember earlier when we looked at his efficiency on these shots, and that part of his game was virtually non-existent? Well, so far this season, that's no longer been the case. And again, I get it, the sample size is small, but all the evidence is in the film. Last season, whenever Giannis attempted a post fade or a turnaround jumper on the baseline, he created little to no separation because he made minuscule contact on his back downs before fading away. Watch this possession here against Jalen Williams. Giannis takes one dribble and fades away without giving J-Dub a bump, which allows Williams to close out on GA before he even puts the shot up. And this is short. Same thing here, mid-post against OG Anunoby. One dribble, no bump, and Anunoby is able to get off a great contest before Antetokounmpo can even put up the shot. But this season, Giannis no longer makes that mistake. Here he is matched up with Jarrett Allen in the mid-post, giving him a couple of bumps off the dribble, and creating plenty of separation on this turnaround jumper. Or right here against Al Horford. GA sizes him up, and drops his shoulder into him to create all of this separation falling away, and he knocks it down. And in this final clip I'm about to show you, I'd like to give a shout out to Bucks assistant coach Vin Baker, who was a lethal mid-range threat back during his playing days, and he's worked tirelessly with Giannis throughout his career to improve that jumper and his post work. And the reason I bring up Vin now is because you can tell that Giannis took a lot of inspiration from him on this move. Watch as GA backs down Paul Reed and tries to spin into that fall-away jumper along the baseline, but he realizes he created no separation, So he leans in and gives Reed a slight bump, which gives Giannis just enough space to get off that one-legged fallaway. And speaking of one-legged fallaways, that's the next shot I'd like to touch on. Because for this shot in particular, you can tell that Giannis's mechanics have changed, and it's allowed him to become a more efficient jump shooter on these attempts. But to paint this picture, we need to rewind back to the 2021 NBA Finals. On this possession here, Giannis catches the ball at the elbow and sizes up Jay Crowder for this tough one-legged fallaway. But did you notice anything? Watch as GA gets into his upward shooting motion. He cocks the ball back toward his head, but instead of continuing to follow through naturally, he awkwardly extends his arms in midair to create this noticeable hitch. And he did the same thing a couple of games later when matched up with DeAndre Ayton in the mid-post. He backs down and fades off of one leg before cocking the ball back towards his head and then awkwardly raising his arms instead of following through in midair. But this wasn't just a young Giannis problem. He could be seen making this same mistake just last season. Here he is backing down Reggie Jackson near the free throw line, and when he fades off of one leg, he cocks it back towards his head, and there's that awkward hitch as he weirdly raises his arms instead of following through. But this season has just been much smoother on those one-legged attempts. Watch this possession against Jaylen Brown, as GA drops his shoulder into him to create separation, and when he fades off his back leg, he gets the ball straight into his shot pocket for this fluent looking release. He still cocks the ball back towards his head, but that's just his natural follow through at this point. The good news is that weird mid-air arm extension is gone, and we can see it again here when matched up with OG Anunoby in the mid-post. Giannis gives a bump and gets that ball straight into his shot pocket on the fallaway for this nice looking fade. My only complaint with Giannis's mechanics when it comes to fades specifically is the consistency of his form. That's one thing that's still a work in progress from year to year. Sometimes as a shooter, you have to change your release depending on what the defense is giving you, because at the end of the day, that's just basketball. But for example, on this possession from last season, Giannis tries to body up Wendell Carter and falls away, but Wendell makes this a tough shot and forces the miss. But play that back. Why is Giannis only partially following through? We still need the full extension of that wrist. Now here's an example from this season. Giannis fades against Al Horford near the right block and knocks down a pretty tough turnaround jumper. But the way he's releasing the ball here is just a little bit funky, and it doesn't match up with his typical shot release. So as you can see, Giannis's mid-range game and the mechanics that go along with it are still a work in progress. But his hot start to this season just shows you how far he's come as a jump shooter, and he can really only get better from here on out. And if that's true for the remainder of this season, good luck trying to stop the Greek Freak from inside the arc. But let me know what you think about Giannis's game down in the comments section below. And that's all I've got for now, and I'll see you in the next one.